CEL was started to provide social and recreational opportunities for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We've continued on, was 50 plus years ago, and we've continued on to provide a wide range of social and recreational opportunities, both here in this building and then outside in various communities. About 15 years ago, we added an adult day program called REACH. REACH provides opportunities and activities for continued learning and growth, both here, out in the community, for adults who have aged out of the school system and want to transition into more adult-like programs and more adult-like environments. And then our second day program is called Catalyst, and we started Catalyst in October of 2023, so we'll be hitting 2 years in about 6 months. That program focuses on teaching and participating and practicing meaningful daily life skills for those individuals that want to live on their own or maybe want to live with their roommate and need to learn how to care for their home, how to budget, plan, and cook meals, healthy and not so healthy, microwave, oven, stove, all of that, how to navigate the community for fun and for resources, how to use a bake, how to use a dry cleaners if you have to do that, how to the various grocery stores. Where do you go for this? How to use your library, everything you will get out of it. So it's a program that's growing. It's been very successful. They have a lot planned. 5-week sessions of learning, and then we change topics. But it's going well. And then we have our employment program, which places folks in the community in jobs that they are interested in, that is down their career path. We've also just begun to offer skill building workshops that help prepare you to be more active in your own job seeking role, computer skills, personal skills. And then we offer packages that focus on specific topics related to your employment journey, such as career exploration, work readiness, and post-placement support. But to learn all about that, there's guides over there on the table that you can grab one on the way out. There's also water and snacks, so help yourself. And we're happy, if you haven't been here before, I'm happy to give you a tour if you want one or answer any questions after the program. But now let's get to what you came for on this stormy night. I'd like you to meet Lori Williams. Lori and her husband, Rick, are the founders of Collaborative Community Housing Initiative. They have one adult son, Zachary, who inspired them to form CCHI. Lori is leading this grassroots movement for housing for adults with IDD and ASC with a group of volunteer families and stakeholders throughout the country. Lori's committed to building a more equal, diverse, inclusive, and welcoming community for people of all abilities, and their first housing community will be in Highland Park and was slated to open in January of 2026, right around the corner. In addition to working full-time as an executive HR consultant, Lori is involved with the National Fragile X Association as an event organizer, speaker, and mentor. So let's welcome Lori Williams.
Thank you for coming tonight. I personally am very invested in housing and in adult living for people with disabilities because of my son, Zach. And we have gone through the same exact thing that everybody else has. So we understand the challenges and understand really the limitations that we have for making decisions on adulthood for our young adults with disabilities. So that is, in fact, why we started CCHI. Okay, so I've just broken this up into 3 phases to kind of wrap your head around where we're at as a organization right now. Phase 1 was purchasing the building that we recently acquired yesterday. So we closed yesterday. Really? Only took us 8 years, but here we are. Phase 2 is development and planning and construction. And then phase 3 is moving in. And what we value at CCHI is we value our community. We are inclusive to everybody. And we want to seek solutions for our members to find housing that is a good fit for them and their family. We have meeting norms and dialogue norms that we share with our group every time we meet, because what we have found through this process is we are all very passionate about our kids. We're really passionate about their future. And it's a good reminder every time we get together just to take a breath and understand we're all in the same boat together. So we were established as a 501(c)(3) in 2019. We started this journey in 2017, actually. And we bring families of adults with disabilities, along with community stakeholders, government officials, developers, and other nonprofits, all dedicated to creating a more inclusive and diverse environment for everybody. And these are some of our wonderful members of our organization. So, our mission is to facilitate housing and community engagement to include people with disabilities. That's pretty basic, right? This is a picture of some of our parents, community members, and adults who are volunteering at the Lake County Food Bank, which we do once a month in Highwood. It's a great opportunity for us to serve the community, for people in the outside community to see how valuable and how wonderful our population is and our families are. And it kind of takes some of that fear of we don't know what people are like, right? Because they're working right next to them and they don't know, if someone has a disability or not. So it kind of taps that down a bit, and it opens people's minds to what we can all accomplish. These are two of our guys. This is my son, Zach. This is his friend, Levi, two of our members. Our vision is that people with disabilities are able to live meaningful lives in their chosen community. And as I'm sure many of you know, uh, currently the system in place, if you wanted 24/7 SILA, you could get pulled, to go somewhere that is not even in your community. And that's something that we really want to make sure doesn't happen. We want people to be able to stay in the community where they were raised, where their family is, where their jobs are, where their friends are. Um, so these are some of the details for our building that we have. Number one, it was a memory care facility that closed a year and a half ago. It's in Highland Park, and it is currently 62 beds, 62 units. It's a very large building. It's 3 stories. It's about 70,000 square feet. It's a good size. It was built in 2012, so it's in really great shape. And some of the specific details to this model are it's a co-op. So we went through a process of applying for tax credits, applying for HUD funding, doing all those applications, and thankfully we were turned down, and for many reasons. One reason is because it spurred us to come up with a different solution that was better for our population. If you go with funding from HUD or from tax credits, you don't have control over who moves into the building. So it gets open to everyone. And as a organization, we have focused on building community for all these years. So all of our families know one another. Our adults know one another. They understand one another in a very organic way. And just to be able to say anybody from anywhere can move into a building really isn't, in our opinion, very fair. So that's one reason why it was a blessing. Another reason is that all the funding is going away right now for all of the affordable housing projects. So it would be like, even if we did get it right now, we would be sitting in a spot where we would not even been able to fund it, and we would have had to walk away. So, so thankfully, when they did turn us down, we said, okay, what is our plan B? And our plan B was we have a community, we have all of these families and stakeholders who want longevity, they want permanence, they want stability. Let's pull them together and say, what if we all bought into this? What if we are all shareholders? So our members who live in the building have a say in what their life looks like. The families have a say, and our organization has a say. So It was a very nice balance. So what we ended up doing is a completely privately funded building. And we had some private investors put in a few $1 million. We had the Wintrust Bank of Highland Park give us a bridge loan, and everything should be paid back by July from selling the shares, and which we've already sold 62% as of today, and we just got the building yesterday. So it's really good. Um, just so a lot of people want to know the difference between a co-op and a condo. So a condo is unit specific, and it has a board which controls all the rules and everything like that. A co-op is a shareholder. So everyone has a share or two shares in the entire building and in the entire community, which we really like the idea. It felt a lot more authentic to us um, than doing. Okay, sorry. um, than doing a condo. And also, we talked about doing rentals, which is something we may do in another building. For this particular one, it didn't. The space didn't suit itself to do a rental apartment building. So some of the requirements for this particular building, residents have to be CCHI members. Building community is very important to us. Our families have spent years and years doing things together. So we don't think having a community is about having a building. We think it's about having that sense of community with people knowing each other and caring for each other. And so for that reason, we say you gotta be in the system. You gotta, come to dinners. You have to, participate in things and really be a part of the community. Whether you wanna live there or not, we have some people who might live independently right now in their own apartments, but they're members and they come to everything because they wanna be part of that hub. They wanna be part of that community. All of our families are required to participate in community activities, in fundraising, and in programming. Everyone's involved in something. We say, what do you like? What do you like to do? What's your talent? And that's what someone brings to the table. It might be that they do something once a year, but it's really meaningful to the organization. And we could keep the cost for the organization down by utilizing our own strengths and not having to outsource. And it also gives people, a sense of engagement and a way to contribute to the overall community that we're in. And everyone has to have an application to get into the building. We have to interview everybody regardless of if we know them or not. Being able to live in an apartment building is very different than going to a day program or going out for dinner with your friends. And so there are certain things that we have learned in the past 8 years from talking to communities around the country, around the world. And that is, there are certain people who do well in environments where there are people, and there are certain people who don't. And that just is a reality, whether you have a disability or not. And so part of our interview process is very much about what environment do you function well in? Like, what do you like? What do you not like? And if this is a good fit. Um, People in this community, this particular building, need to be able to live semi-independently, meaning they don't need 24/7 support. They need to be able to participate in group activities and meals. They don't have to, but they should be able to if they want to. They should be open to making friends and meeting new people, and ability to communicate needs, whatever that looks like. If it's with the machine, if it's verbal, if it's sign, as long as somebody can communicate their needs. So some of the things about this building, there will be 24/7 front desk. Everybody will have a private apartment, a private bathroom. All of the rooms, elevators, the building is all ADA ready. It was a memory care facility. There were a lot of people in wheelchairs. There were a lot of people who couldn't navigate walking. And so the building is already equipped for that, which is really nice. CCHI is going to have an RA on the property so that there is somebody there overnight in case of emergencies, as well as the front desk person. People have a choice between kitchens and kitchenettes. One of the early lessons we had was we were gonna just do full kitchens in every apartment, and that's what we thought everybody would want. And for the first 6 weeks, everyone's like, I don't want a full kitchen in my son's, apartment. It would be a safety risk. Like that wouldn't be a good idea. We just want like a microwave and a fridge freezer and cabinets and counter. And it was like ding ding ding. So people have a choice. People have a choice between a kitchenette and a kitchen. All units come with a kitchenette. There are people who are doing one bedrooms instead of studios. There are people who are coming from a independent living situation. They are in a regular market rate apartment building. They're moving into our community. They are used to having a full-on kitchen. And so we said that's fine. If you want a full-on kitchen, you just have to pay the difference between what the kitchenette is and the full-on kitchen. And because we are renovating the whole thing, people are able to really specify what they want in their apartments, which is nice. Um, Community meals, we have a chef actually that's volunteering to not only help us redo our entire kitchen, but also to help create a menu plan for our residents. And what we are planning on doing is a grab and go breakfast type of environment if people want it, and a dinner. And the cost for that is not included in what right now is our maintenance fees. We are in the process of getting our final numbers from our architects and contractors on how much everything is gonna cost, and at that point, we're gonna have a much better idea of what it looks like. We're trying to get as many grants, foundation subsidies as possible to, take the burden of as many of the costs off of the families as possible. Flexible support options. So we're going to talk about that in detail in a few slides from now. And then technology driven. So every apartment will be wired for technology. Somebody can see who's on the opposite side of the door. If somebody wants to ask for assistance, they don't need to go looking down the hall. They can use their technology. Um, Technology is a super important thing for our population. We've all kind of seen what it could do through COVID, but we've been studying technology before COVID, and the universities are working on robots that are helping people with disabilities as companions or looking at them saying, you're not dressed appropriately for the day. It's 40 degrees out. You can't be wearing shorts, or you forgot to take your medication. It's time to take your medication. All of these things are being made right now for our population, and we want to access as much of it as possible. We were working with the Mind Institute in California, who does an amazing job at remote technology. And we're working on a grant to have the most advanced technology possible in an environment to support people with disabilities, which was it was a huge grant. It was like $1.8 million, which would have been just an amazing thing for us. There were 3 universities working with us. And guess what? There's no funding now. So no more NIH grants. So, what we're gonna have to do it another way, and we will. Also part of the community, we have 2 areas in the building, that they have their own entrance, and we are leasing both of those spaces out to other, organizations that are going to serve our community and the outside community, one of which is Arts of Life. I don't know how many people are familiar with Arts of Life, but they have 2 great studios where they're working with adults with disabilities to help them learn how to be professional artists. And it's an amazing organization. Many of our members already go to their programs, and they are going to be leasing space in our building, which is so exciting. The other one is Glenkirk is going to be leasing space. Glenkirk does support for people with anxiety, need help with some life skills, and that is a service that is actually billed to Medicaid. So that is something that is also an option for any of our residents who are interested in utilizing that. They also do service providing, and so they also could be providing that service. The other thing is a community manager. We want to be able to have somebody there after dinners that can engage the residents to come out of their apartments if they're in there, or stay out of their apartments to do something with their neighbors, which is what we call all of our members. They are neighbors. So this person will help facilitate a game night, or a workout night, or a sporting event, or movie night, or whatever it might be. And that person is not really considered a support person. They're considered kind of a community builder, right? Trying to pull people out. Right now, it's looking like we have 50 apartments. So not 50 residents because we have an RA, and we may have an extra unit for transition or for a parent or something like that. So we're looking at most likely 48 residents. Um, there are studios, two sizes, and people can put two studios together to create a one bedroom, either a smaller one bedroom or a larger one bedroom. Um, Semi-independent living, uh, we'll get into that. We are cultivating a close-knit community. We want people to know their neighbors. We want people to feel a sense of comfort and a sense of warmth and friendship, like hopefully they do now in their own home, so that that's something that carries over. As parents, we all want that for our kids, right? We want them to have the life that they have now, and we feel that way too. So it's super important, that someone doesn't need to like someone, but they can still get along. And that's the community that we're creating. We are collaborating with like-minded nonprofits to offer supports and programs. Um, we are collaborative. That is part of our name. We work with every organization. We want to help facilitate people getting jobs by bringing in JCFS or Total Linked Community or whatever other organizations are working on that. We don't feel we need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to be good at everything, but we do want to give people access to what's happening, and so that they can make decisions of what might be best for them. A lot of our neighbors go to programs. They go to programs here. They go to programs at Keshet. They go to Arts of Life. They go to Our Place of New Trier. All of those organizations, like, we're all serving the same community, right? And so we all want to interact, and we all want to come up with the best possible solutions. How great is it in our building if every single program could offer one thing at our building, right? I mean, it would just be great and very cohesive. There's a huge kitchen on the first floor. We are going to have both a teaching kitchen and a professional kitchen. So, as I mentioned, we have a chef who's very excited about having us have a food program. We also have a grant program where we have cooking and we have nutrition. So, we want to be able to continue to offer cooking classes and opportunities for people to get together to cook. We were told by one housing community that you build it and they will not come. People do not want to cook for themselves if someone else is cooking for them. But we have found through our programs that they actually do like cooking together, as long as it's not like, I'm really hungry and I have to make my own dinner. It's very different if you go on a Sunday afternoon and you learn how to make pizza. So we want to make it, a little bit more fun. And collaborating with community partners. We have spent the past 8 years literally meeting with all government officials, all different community organizations, uh, you name it, we've done it, and we're only going to succeed as a community by collaborating within our communities, right? We can't, like, force ourselves into a community and say, "Here we are, like us, do everything for us," right? You gotta nurture those relationships and then have people say, "Hey, I've been thinking about this." And that's what we have found has kind of been the ticket of really building that over time. So people ask, is this our only building? We're probably going to do more buildings, but I can tell you it takes years to build that community. It takes years. So a day in the life, grab and go breakfast, or people can eat in their apartment, or they can grab and go and take it back to their apartment if they choose to. People will head off to programs in employment. This is not an environment that's offering day programs. We want people out in the community. We want everybody to have as typical a life as possible. Transportation, we have a shuttle for the building. We don't know how many hours it's going to go. We do know that we're probably hiring a third party that is licensed and that is insured, and that we don't have to deal with the staffing. We don't have to deal with any of that. We also have Marine Township, which is the kind of like pace door to door, but it's better because it's Marine Township, and it's $2 to $4 for someone to have a ride. And they go, I think, within 15 miles, which is amazing. We're right on the bus line. It's literally right outside their building, and it goes right into town or right into Deerfield. Um, and I'm sure you're all already using this, but the Uber app that has Pace has been a gift for our people. So if somebody can use the Uber app, and you already have Pace door to door, that it saves so much money, and somebody can go 8 rides a day. I mean, it's unbelievable. So hopefully that funding isn't going to get cut. Group dinner options or meal in an apartment. Um, After dinner opportunities, as I mentioned, people have asked, is there a set bedtime? No, we're not telling people what time to go to bed. We are going to have quiet hours, just like a hotel would have or an apartment building would have, but we are not going to dictate what time people go to bed. Supports needed should be provided either by technology service providers in addition to who is in the building. So, someone who has really high level needs, and this question comes to us a lot. Um, Service providers are very happy to offer services for multiple families under one roof. This model is something that isn't done, right? But the service providers really like it because they can actually serve 4 people that's not in a group home, right? Or 6 people. And, the families can leverage how many people we have with what their needs are and what service providers work for them. And that's, again, one of the things we're facilitating is we introduce you to all the service providers. You have an opportunity to interview them all, talk about your needs, go through that process with them. And at the same time, you're building relationships with all these other community members and families and young adults, and you're seeing the different levels of need. And, leveraging that is kind of our way of dealing with not having one service provider because we don't believe one service provider can fit the needs for all different needs. We just don't believe it. And if you do, that's great, but our philosophy is not that. So for support options, as I said, we have a 24/7 front desk. There will be technology. There is cameras everywhere in this building. It was a memory care facility. So none of the units have cameras. None of the bathrooms have cameras, but every hallway, every community space, stairways, everything has cameras. Um, what I mentioned, service provider roundtables, that's something we're doing for all of our people. So the smallest one-on-one privately paid to the bigger ones like Glenkirk and Clearbrook, and all of those are speaking with our groups so that you can see which ones might work for you. Families can hire support people individually if they want, or you can leverage multiple people hiring supports. Um, we have a lot of families that all share the same respite people. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Except you're in one place. Um, Several of the organizations have hourly support professionals. We encourage people to attend our roundtables so that you can get exposure to who they are. And again, the technology is going to be there for added supports for people. And um, we hear this every day, and we are all parents, so we know security is paramount, safety is paramount. So um, our onboarding for families and for individuals really focuses on people understanding boundaries people really understanding what's acceptable and what's not. And that's something that just is an understanding before somebody walks in the door. That really, again, we're using all this time, all these years to teach people how do we interact, right? How do you interact? How do you communicate your needs, whether you could do it verbally or not? So it's very important to us that we have people who are able to respect one another and learn. And whether you have special needs or you're a typical person, everyone has bad days. Everyone understands that. But we want to make sure that everyone coming in, that there's a general protocol of behavior, right? Of respect. So when we talk about funding options, support options, right now the state of Illinois does not allow 24/7 SILAs to be in an environment like this. That being said, it could change tomorrow because everything with Medicaid Social Security is changing. So as of today, if that is something you're interested in, we encourage you to speak to your person at Community Alternatives, if that's what people use, to find out what your options might be. Most of the people who are moving in the building are doing an ISILA, which is a independent SILA. The amount of hours is less than a 24/7 SILA. But if you're working with a service provider, you can advocate for more hours based on your need, and that is what our families are doing. So, my son needs more than 15 hours of support a week. He does. So, that means if I choose to do an ISILA instead of using my home-based funding, let's say, then we would advocate for, let's say, 25 hours a week, right? And that is what the system is that we have to go through in order to try to navigate Illinois' Medicaid system. People can do private funding, of course. People can bring their own support as long as that person checks out with the background screen and everything like that. And then again, we're working with a lot of families and a lot of agencies to see which ones are the best fit. So I know everyone's going to have a million questions about that. Um, so support is a big conversation that we have regularly. Support looks different for different people, and as parents, we are used to accommodating our family members, our kids. We have a tendency of doing more for them than somebody else would because we our parents, because we love them, because we maybe want to have things happen faster or, you know, out of kindness. And as soon as somebody else is with them, they're like, they're fine doing X, Y, and Z, right? It always happens. So when we talk about supports, we really want families to go through this process of really what does support look like? Right? What does support look like? Well, I'm at my house 24, all night long, so my son needs me all night long. Well, does he really? Has he ever woken up in the middle of the night, like, besides when he's sick? Ever? Like, has there ever been anything that has happened? No. So, if there's someone on premise, yes. If there's a button he can push and to call somebody, yes. That level of support is really different, and it's hard for parents to think that way, but there are a lot of different levels of support that we can figure out and work together so that, it doesn't have to look one way. And and I promise that it really works very nicely once you step back just a little bit. Um, Technology, I'll tell you, I don't know how many of you, if any, know about the Tavala ovens, but a few years ago when we got a grant, we bought a bunch of Tavala ovens, and it's a Chicago-based company. So Tavala is like a microwave it's like a convection oven. Okay, air fryer convection, looks like a toaster oven. And you can order food from Tavala. They have menus, you order, they deliver it, you put it in the fridge or the freezer, and literally you scan the meal on the oven turns on, it knows exactly what temperature to cook, it knows exactly how long to cook, you can turn it on with your phone, you can turn it off with your phone, it has an automatic shut off, and it is a great source for independence, and we got a grant, for a few years, and we actually provided gift cards for our members to get a Tavella oven and to have a few $100 to try, right? Try different foods. We had some of our members try vegetables for the first time they never had, or they actually ate a breakfast when they weren't used to ever eating breakfast. And so um, that is the type of technology that's out there that can help adapt for some of the things that we think, they would never know how to cook something, or they would never know, whatever it is. This is like as simple as reading a barcode. Really great. And it's pretty healthy food. The other things that now this is almost outdated because we had this before COVID, but all of the things that are out there right now for Ring and for Apple and Google and all of that is something that all of our members pretty much work better than any of the parents, number 1. And number 2, there are a lot of, remote service providers that this is all they do. They have sensors so that if somebody has seizures, or if somebody falls out of bed, or if my son loves to take boiling hot showers, there's a sensor that goes off if the water is too hot. All of these things are remote support systems that we introduce our members to so that they can understand what some of those other supports can look like. So for us, these are just an idea. As I said, these are share purchases. I'm not here to sell anybody anything. I'm just telling you what we're doing. And they range from 143 up to 287 for 1 bedrooms. And monthly maintenance fees cover property taxes, which are very high in Highland Park, covers utilities, internet, it covers our 24/7 at the front desk, and it covers the RA, it covers the, community manager. We would love for it to cover, some of the food, so we're working on that, but right now, we're trying to get the property taxes down a little since we're a nonprofit. Um What families can do, they can purchase up to 2 shares. That is a one-bedroom apartment. We are saying people cannot buy and hold a unit for 4 years. There are people who have young adults in high school, and they're like, "We're not gonna be ready for 4 years." We can't do that. Like, we can't take an opportunity for another family and just let it sit. Then the opposite conversation to that is, well, we'll rent it out. And then when my kid is ready to move in, then they can move in. Well, what happens to the young adult that's living there? Right? It's not really fair to that person. So it's a hard thing to navigate, but we as an organization, we said if some we can handle gradual transition, right? If we build in transition for a year, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want 48 people moving in on the same day. You want it to be staggered. So up to a year, that's staggered. More than that is not something that's really going to fit in this environment. We want one person per unit unless it's approved by CCHI. We do have some people who are couples in our building. They are not living together, they're living across from one another or down the hall from one another. It is not something we are opposed to, but it is something that needs to be arranged prior. No children in the building, no resident children. So no one under 18 in the building. They can visit, but they can't live there. And shares can only be sold to someone who has been approved by the process, right? The application and everything like that. Any construction being done to units that some people are like, I want, not skylights, but they want track lighting, or they want a special this, or someone wants a special bathtub or whatever. That's totally fine. It needs to be done by the contractors who are working in our building and our architects, not an outside agency. We're selling all shares for the building by June. That's when it all ends. And that all of our sales and purchase agreements are supposed to be executed and given out next week to the families. Um, so I kind of went through what the maintenance fees are based on. Our timeline. So March, purchased the building. We selected an architect and a contractor. We have just signed off for the most part on the sales and purchase agreements and the leases and There's a lot of legal documents, programming for members, get-togethers, grant programs. Those are all going to continue. April to June, we are doing a capital campaign starting yesterday. Our goal is as many of the community spaces in the building as possible. We want sponsors. So, for example, um, the company that actually was the broker for the seller for our building was so engaged with our mission and what we're doing that they came to us and said, "We want to do the game room. Like, we want to build out the game room. We want to like do arcade games and, this and that. And you like everything you possibly want. We'll give you a check, or we'd love to go shopping. We'd love to install it. We'd love our company to come in and be a part of it. Like, that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. And we'll put their name right on top of the doorway so that everyone knows that that is who helped build this space. And we have a lot of community spaces, which we will go through. So that's starting. Our groundbreaking is probably going to be in the next 7 weeks. Um, we are completing all the share sales, our final renovation plans, all of the city approvals. The city of Highland Park has been really fantastic with us, but we still have to go through the process just like everybody else. We'll continue with our programming, and we are starting to go into the phase of full-on applications and interviews. From July to December, renovations. So we're 3 months planning, then we start renovations. Um, we're gonna pay off the bridge loans by the summer, which is great. We're not gonna have any debt as of the summer. We're gonna finalize all the family interviews, begin onboarding processes. So again, we want this to be very structured where people are walking in with the suitcase, it has to be mapped out. It really has to be thoughtful. Not just for the resident that's moving in, but for the family, right? I mean, it's a whole process for everybody. And and we need to complete all of our things. We have to complete our hiring. We have to complete all of our operational things, our transportation, the service providers. We get resident feedback sessions. Our board of directors will have 2 residents on the board of directors. So we want that involvement and the meal program established. And then move in is starting January 2026. Our developer says it's gonna be sooner, but I don't believe it, so just as a side note. So, application process, whatever, I encourage you to just go to our website, read about what we're doing. There's a lot of information on it, a lot of information. We welcome you to come to any of our things and to get to know other families. Part of what makes CCHI special is the families. I mean, the families are family now. Like, everyone's together. We have a thing at the building tonight. It's Illuminati's fundraiser. So everyone's picking up Illuminatis. They're bringing it to the building. They're having a picnic. Okay. 2 of our board members came early. One of them is cleaning all the tables, and the other one is setting up all the buffet table. I mean, like, this is this is the way we roll. But it's really nice. And we have an interest form on our site that you could fill out. If people are interested, we give them a tour of the building, and we have intro sessions also where we go through this online or at the building to teach people about us. And as much as people can participate, we would love them to. We have a tour coming up in the building Saturday, March 29th from 11 to 1. And that's that. That's that. So, questions? Yes.
So let's say, in 2000 or 2026 terms, I think my daughter needs X amount of space and this works out and it's great. But, 15 years from now, when I'm in an old person's home, if she needs additional space, how does that work? Is there a way to kind of like buy up in the system if she needed to go from a studio to a 1 bedroom?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. So, part of our challenge in figuring all of this out with the shares is, what if somebody changes their mind? What if it doesn't work out? What if someone moves across the world and you want your kid to move across the world with you? What if there's something that happens? Like, there are all these things that can happen. We want families to be able to sell their shares to another family or to CCHI. We are putting a cap of what that dollar amount can be, because we don't want people profiting beyond what is the normal scale of, the year and the cost of living, blah, blah, blah. We had some people saying, "I'll buy 5 units and I'll rent them out," or, "I'll buy 5 units," like, we're not doing that. These are people's homes. So, if someone is in a space and they don't want it, they can sell their shares. CCHI has to approve the family just like they approve every other family coming in, but that is absolutely within your right to do that. If it is years and years down the line, I think that, um, I feel like we don't know this because we have no history. We have nothing to base this on other than logic. But I can just imagine over time, someone's going to be like, okay, I'm moving out or I'm doing this or whatever it is. And a unit comes up and it's okay. What's that family's option? Does that family wanna sell it to another family that they know? Do they wanna sell it to CCHI? Do they wanna I mean, I think that if somebody is already in the building, that would be a great first option, right? Instead of somebody new coming in, I think that that probably makes a lot of sense if it works out for everybody. Um, if the question would be what happens if there aren't available units, right? Then what does that look like?
Well, as long as there's I think the understanding that people's needs are going to change over time and they may need something 10 years from
Yep.
now that they don't need now.
Right. Yeah, we have no way of knowing. Right. Right, we have no way of knowing, and also healthcare needs, right? I mean, it's like
Services they need. Like,
absolutely, all of these things might change. So, I think that, it's interesting because in our collaborations, it's like we're talking with healthcare people, and we're talking with the city about things, and we're all of these things are moving parts that we haven't lived through, and most of the housing communities around the world haven't lived through it, honestly, because, it's only been the past 15 years that these kind of, any kind of communities have been developed like this. So, it's kind of a new thing for all of us. That's a good question.
will the neighbors ever age out?
No, I that's such a good question because someone applied to be in the building who was in their 60s, and there was a conversation of, you know, well, is that a fit? And it's like, well, why wouldn't it be a fit? Like, if the person is just like everybody else and can fit the criteria just like everybody else, why not? I think if people have healthcare issues, that's where part of our planning process when onboarding and filling out paperwork is, what do you want to do if somebody has healthcare issues, right? What is that going to look like? Back?
How would
Oh,
us residents, have access to the building and to our rooms? Will we actually have physical keys, or will they be like, uh,
fobs. You're gonna have fobs.
go continue along with the age?
So, what are your plans to do once, like, the parents had passed away and the our kids are get to be older and need more help? Because this is looks like it's a pretty independent place. And what happens when they actually need more help? We just find another place for them and just sort of move them out.
No, no, I don't think so. I think that our goal, our CCHI's goal in this is to create communities and to build up the organization so that there are caseworkers that are going to be offered, right? That there are those kind of connections that you're not a stranger in this building. There are people in the building. There's CCHI people in the building. There's the RA. There's program person. There, the longer we're in existence, the more layers we want to add, because it is semi-independent, but you're not alone. It's not an alone environment. There's still people there. There's still going to be supports there. It's just not the same supports for everyone.
I'm telling people like, hey, your schedule says you need to take a shower right now. Are you taking a shower? I don't know.
Well, there is. That would be a support person. Absolutely. That just like every other community, that's exactly what support people do, right? It's about how often do you need it?
Maybe.
Yeah, how often do you need it?
Okay, because it sounds like this was more of a very independent versus the.
No, it's not very independent. It is not an environment where somebody is unable to communicate what their needs are and they're not able to really operate in an environment like this, right? But please don't mistake this for total independence. I can assure you, my son would never get out of his room unless he had somebody motoring him through saying, hey, you got to be downstairs in 5 minutes for breakfast. And hey, what you're wearing isn't appropriate. You got to change clothes. Like that's my reality. And I don't call that very independent. I call that semi-independent. Because he's able to get dressed. He's able to do all those things. He just needs a little bit of prompting. Yeah, well, and that's part of our onboarding process is figuring that out, right?
You learned two questions. So the first one, it sounds like the interview and the approval process occurs after the contract is signed. So at that point, if everything goes well, when do you actually want the balance paid under the contract?
Well, we want all balances paid by June.
By June.
Mm-hmm.
By June 1. June 1, June 30th?
I don't know if it's June 1 or 15. It's either June 1 or 15.
But in that case, all the interviews and all the approvals will be done before.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. And then in the event you encounter construction delays, which is commonplace, do you have a plan for that?
Well, actually, the current plan is that the building's supposed to be done in October, and we're saying it's going to be done in January. Most of the work being done in the building is cosmetic. I mean, you guys saw the building. It's more cosmetic than anything. We're not moving walls. We're not doing crazy things. We are literally like doing a big cosmetic job because it looks like a memory care facility. We want it to look like a cool apartment building that people would live in if they're 18 to 45 years old, right? So that is the work that's being done. Every room right now, it's getting new flooring. The bathrooms are getting updated. It's getting new lighting and nothing that complicated, right? It's really not that complicated.
But, if things didn't go according
Yeah.
to plan,
Yeah.
and you had to push that out, that wouldn't be a problem, right? You would just handle that and delay the occupancy of the rest.
Oh yeah. I mean, we meet regularly. The shareholders meet like we were meeting every single week for quite a while. Now we're at once a month. It's probably going to go to every other week. A lot of committee work is being done, so everyone is informed of everything going on. Like it's a transparent process. We're all in it together.
Okay. And I think you may have told us this before, but there'll be one shareholder on the board, right? At least one shareholder will be a
Oh yeah, several.
So,
Mm-hmm. Several. The majority are shareholders. Yeah.
okay. I wasn't sure composition.
Yeah, we put in the bylaws that two of our residents, two of our neighbors will be, and then we have 3 parents, I believe, and then we have some community supporters who have been involved with the organization. Yeah.
Who determines what semi able to function? Who's gonna do that intake process?
We have a team. We have a team of people doing the application and interview process. We have professionals.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we as parents can be delusional.
Parents are delusional. Absolutely. We're all delusional, right? I know that. Yes, it's
I saw something about a monthly fee or something besides what's that, $900
that's the maintenance fee. Correct.
every month besides the initial.
Correct. That is covers.
So you would have a condo. Like
It is. I mean, it covers property taxes. It covers internet, utilities, the RA. You know, it covers all of those things. Mm-hmm.
Lori, I have a question.
Yeah.
Piggyback on what you said. Will the innocent process, if their son or daughter's coming to other programs such as CEL's REACH program or Catalyst or even the social program,
Yes.
would you interview the staff from here to see how they do with some of their skills and their socialization? And would that be part of the process?
That's a great question. Actually, on our application, several of the questions involve what other programs are you involved in? And can we reach out to those programs to meet with them? Absolutely. Yep.
We all know.
Yep.
What you see at home is different than what we see here or
Right.
what they see in school. So I think the there we'll get a well-rounded picture.
And-
It's great.
And it's part of like what's so great about being collaborative, right? It's like we're all serving the same people. We want what's best for everybody. Yeah. For sure. Any other questions? No? Okay.
Well, thank you, Lori.
Yeah.